one here. Go.
It's making the client cry, like a good way to try to kind of like raise motivation.
Yeah.
Is that like, oh, every time you work on your strategy?
No, not really. Not really. We never saw that coming. I mean, the documentary was nice and it was sad, but it wasn't that impactful. But you know what happened? And it was another thing that happened really in the presentation was that this type of work kind of, created two groups in the client side. One group loved us. They wanted to work with us. And the other one, they just hated us, right? Because this is the type of agency that they didn't want to work with. An agency that challenged them, the brief, in passionate pursue what they believe. And one person of that side, he threw a question. And he stands up and he says, excuse me, wonderful work, wonderful idea, but this, we need the combo, the grand combo to buy this idea, right? Do you already talk to them? Do you have permission to do this? And that question was through to the creative director because I was seated already. The creative director turned white, saw me, like waiting for me to answer. I saw the president of the office, and the president of the office stands up and he says, yes. And that was a lie. He said, definitely, of course. We just need to sign here and the grand combo is in. That was a lie. And he says, you have to lie in every pitch, then you make it true. All right. So we did it. And actually it was, we were like this to not having this one because the grand combo says no all the time until the last very minute. So, this is a nice story. This pitch was amazing.
There's one at the back there.
A fantastic presentation.
Thank you very much.
Give me those numbers. 60% of the country receives state aid of one type.
Some type of aid.
Yeah. Has it affected a change in consumer behavior at the grassroots? So i.e., so your 40% who don't get any state aid say, right on, we believe you, bank, that's a great thing. Mm-hmm. 60% who are getting state aid, were they feeling bad about themselves? Did they also want to ascend Maslow's hierarchy of need and feel more self-fulfilled?
Yeah.
Has the campaign had that effect?
That kind of happened too. There were people that were, in the social media saying bad stuff about this. But the bank, and we have it very clear, we knew that we were aiming the younger generations. We want the younger generations to learn this song and not the other one, because that was the future of the country. And yes, there were people that they were moved, and we are not so naive that we are really going to change this whole thing with advertising. But this is our third year in a row doing the same strategy with different work, all award-winning work, and we're starting to see some changes. At least for the business, the recession in Puerto Rico is it's getting worse. Okay, yeah. That never stopped, but the bank is doing better. In 2010 and 11, the bank was going down with the recession. So now the trend is positive. So we kind of affected, I believe, the business. Yeah.
Sorry, one quick last question. Why is it doing better? More customer accounts, more business accounts?
Yeah, for the first time.
Money's going on the bottom line then.
For the first time, they are losing less clients. More clients that stay with the bank, which tells you a little bit about the bonding with the bank, because they are not decreasing the fees. They got the fees. So more new customers going to the bank. Thank you.
Working? Yes. Firstly, that was a really great presentation, and thank you so much for sharing. It was really, really
Thank you.
I'm curious because when you're working with your creative team on that, and when they shared that idea with you, which is unique and precious, and you obviously knew that's the thing, what didn't get made? What other thoughts did they have that fell by the wayside or didn't turn into something? Was there anything else that you thought, oh, should we chase that as well, or was it straight away?
We were in desperate mode, right? we just had a week and a half to present. So when we got to the meeting that we have, especially for the pitch, we were working there, and when we approached the creative with this idea, you cannot believe this, but the idea came up instantaneously, immediately. When I mentioned the word new poverty, the welfare dependency and the reluctance to work, that's the new poverty we need to fight. When I mentioned this, a girl from the creative department, she said, oh my God, that's so true, I feel so bad. That's so true, because we even have an anthem for that shit. The Gran Combo, our beloved salsa band, had a song for this shit. And I grew up listening and dancing with that song. And then the creative director comes in and said, why don't we change the lyrics? Why don't we change it? Let's change it. And that was it. So no other thoughts? That was straight the answer.
We've got time for another question, Sarah.
Yeah, one more, I think.
One more. Matt? Yeah.
Going back to the awards.
Yeah.
Sorry, going back to the awards. Sorry, it was a great presentation. Thank you. But I'm going to ask the others something.
Thank you.
You talk about influence, and it feels like in the past, when you wrote an APG paper, it was mainly about having a really clever strategy. It's not a camera; it's a social lubricant. Where get a prize. Do we now need to spend much more time proving and showing the result of the strategy, which is the influence, in order to get somewhere? That feels like a different weighting of the paper and a different way of thinking about what you're doing. You're going to have to spend some time.
I think that is the move on. Either you can talk about what happened in reality, let's call it the effect, but I'll come back to that. The effect of the strategy that drove the creative work that had an effect. Or you can talk about the intended effect, maybe. But obviously, we're not hoping or looking for any kind of quantification of that. It's not effectiveness, it's influence. But I thought, when Lewis was talking about his paper, you talked about behaviour change. You didn't talk about just the creative and how it appeared in the world. You then talked about the behaviour change that came as a result of that. And I think there is that evolution in what the judges will be looking for. Of course, it's brilliant thinking, but it's what was the intended or actual result of that brilliant thinking somewhere in the real world, whether it was organisational culture, it could be sales effect, but it could be, behaviour change or category change. Do you want to say something on that, Craig?
Yeah, I think the other thing I'd say, it's a theme, not a rule, right? So we're talking about probably the thing which will characterise the Grand Prix. When Luis defends it with whatever is the next greatest idea he's come up with, it will probably be really clearly identifiable as a strategy that's had broad influence beyond the original piece of thinking. But there will be loads of things that will still win awards and get shortlisted that will be classic APG papers, as you talk about. They'll have a creative idea at their heart. It's also given me a good opportunity to say the thing that Sarah said that I forgot to say during my logistics section, which is how the papers will be judged. So in common with the last two APG Creative Strategy Award schemes, we will be continuing with our quantitative judging criteria. So the way the weighting works is that you get 50% of the marks at each stage. And the 50% is comprised of how good is the strategic idea at the heart. You get 20 marks for that at each stage. And then secondly, how well have you told the story? 20 marks at each stage. And then 5 marks at the end for how jealous the judges are of the idea, whether or not they really wish they'd come up with it. You have 2 completely different sets of people at each stage. So even though the criteria are the same, you've got 2 different sets of judges. So in total, I guess, I'm not sure how many judges we have in total. If we add up
well over 20.
add up 20 or so people, will each be judging it on that 2025. And as I say, the influence piece is a thing that will be particularly discussed, I think, in the second stage of judging. It will be discussed a little in the first stage, but particularly in the second stage. So as I say, it's a theme, not a rule. The rules and criteria for what is eligible and what's likely to win are set out on the site. But as I say, if you think about it in those 3 things, make the judges jealous and wish they'd done it and had some of the glory that you got during the process, tell a great story, and make sure you're clear about how good the strategic idea is at the heart of it. Those are the 3 things you need to worry about.
How many people, out of interest, think they've got a paper? Fantastic.
That's enough.
That is enough. Well, we wish you the best of luck.
So now we're just going to wrap up the evening very quickly. I'm Sarah Newman. I run the APG, for those of you who don't know me. I just want to say one more important thing about sponsors and partners, which is that we are in conversation with Walk about a very special arrangement with this year for the papers, and we'll be announcing that in the next couple of weeks. I think it's going to be great. I think it's going to benefit us both. But watch this space, and we'll be talking about that a lot more. I'd like to thank all of you for a wonderful presentation, and Louise in particular for inspiring everybody to get involved and write a paper and join in this competition, because I think this is what keeps people going in planning and strategy, to see these really wonderful cases and see what an impact you can have. And finally to say, this is the start of a new APG community, we hope. It's fantastic that so many of you have come along this evening. We did advertise it as a party, so we really ought to let you have a drink now and something to eat. So please go and have a drink, and please talk to somebody you've never talked to before, even though you're English. Welcome, lovely to see you all.
Thank you.